Okay, welcome back. We're going to continue on with some client work. Just a simple brand, logo branding. Originally I had that AI background music on before, but God, that sucks so hard. Like the quality's bad. It's like a really interesting photocopy of what music is. Like everything sounds right, all the notes come together, the lyrics, the vocals, everything is kind of there, but what it doesn't have, there's no soul to any of it. It's pretty lifeless, pretty dead, and maybe that's just because there's not enough controls on it to implement some of that human fuzziness, or perhaps I think it's the machine is doing exactly what it's being told to do. It's following a set of instructions, and yes, it has put together this music in a non-linear kind of way. However, it's really still coming from an instruction. Dear computer, please write a song like this. It can still infer from that and use its training data to create something that sounds real, but then when you sort of get into the flow of it, it just sounds dead, it sounds flat. So what I've done, and again, I would love to have just my favorite songs, the music I work with, I would just love to have that play in the background, where this becomes more of a stepping into the life of a creative designer, probably a new creative designer, utilizing a lot of AI tools into the mix. But we can't. So what I switched over to is stock audio. Just playing through that. It is what it is. But anyway, we're not going to get lost on that. What we're going to get into is do some more work around this brand. This logo I've created, it's okay. I kind of love it, but I don't. I'm not sure. But anyway, we're playing around with it. It's just like, I think it's interesting, but I guess what I'm looking for is probably, well, I don't know. I'll tell you what, this music is a bit better. Okay, I'm just going to match it up. Now, there is a really interesting way of doing this type of work where you think about, well, how do you match the sizes up? How do you get the sizes correct? The proportion correct, how everything can fit. Mostly it's by feel. I think if you design for long enough and you develop your own style, you get a feel for things, and you can just sort of, you just know where to lay things out. But you can use like the rule of thirds. You can use things like the golden ratio, the Fibonacci, to help align these out to get exact. But sometimes you just want to go by feel. What I'm not feeling with this is just this typography. I feel like they're both too tracked out. I kind of want a contrast between the two, but I don't really want this bottom one to be bunched together like that. I want it to breathe a little bit. And it kind of works better there. I don't know whether I need to just push this one out further. So we'll go, that's on 200, go take that to 400. Double that. It almost seems like a little bit too disjointed. So yeah. You can hear the dogs barking in the background. That's just the next door neighbour dogs. They're like these massive dogs in this tiny little backyard. The area which we live, like all the backyards are quite big, and the next door neighbours have this one section that's just like, it's like just sectioned down for these huge dogs, and they just sit there all day. And it's like, well, what's the point of even having a dog? Actually, I don't mind this thing. Let's just go to 100 on there. There, I think that does feel better. It still seems a bit tracked out. Let's go 220. So these dogs next door, they're just barking all day. And I was like, well, what's the point of even having them? I haven't met the neighbours yet, but I think that might be a bit strange. Now this is already feeling much better to me. Still a bit out. So this is where I think it's in the 220 to 200 range. So I might just click around. Hone in on it. Okay, so these are two variations of the logos I've got. Let's talk about them both. So where this actually comes from is it in this one? No, it must be in V2. Open recent files. I can hear music from next door cut through. This microphone's so sensitive. I finally figured out how to get it all set up and working, and yeah. So let's just reset workspace. Okay, that's better. Not too worried about these fonts. Some layers. Window. Oh, it's up there. It's done. Should be in here. Oh, that's the base I want. So you can see it's evolved a little bit. I think this is where I'm going to leave it at. Hmm. So this shape was the concept. And the idea is, I might just write that in, is just to combine, well actually, I had some notes actually, I've got the notes up here. Bring up good old. So I need to get this microphone set up properly because every time I touch the table it's banging and you can hear that bass kick through. Maybe I'll turn my bass down. Yeah, anyway. Alright. Clients. So here's my content. Covered in previous live sessions that this content was created using AI. So just to give a quick overview of how that happened, I had a online interview or online chat with the client, in this case, Aaron Jones. It was just a half an hour. There's about 16 questions I just went through, and I only used the list of questions really just as a base to prompt from, or like to just make sure I got all these topics and the answers from. But the gist of it was we just it's just like a face-to-face conversation, and you're saying, well, tell me about your business. Like, what do you do? What do you do well? What opportunities are other companies missing out on? Where do you see this business going in the next 5 to 10 years? Blah blah blah. And so what happens is this conversation, it records a transcript and it gets sort of written, recorded to just like a Word document. Then you throw that transcript into ChatGPT and you get it to summarize it. And it doesn't just summarize it, you can analyze it for insights, you can ask it for key themes, key topics. And this has been really good because in the midst of like just having a conversation, I might be thinking about what they've said, or might be thinking, okay, you said this, my next question is going to be that. They might have actually said a piece under there that I completely missed. They might have said, or this has actually happened. Like one client, they said something and I must have not have heard it, but then it came through on the insights from the transcript. It's like, oh, that's actually a really good point, and it's actually a really key pivotal point to what helped the project. So it's been a really awesome way of doing this thing, of doing content. And I've been doing it for websites. I've actually been doing it for a lot of things. So, even like my the course that I run on my online school. A lot of the content, like we would do interviews. There's one guest who has like hundreds of millions of views, very big in the rocket and the space. I wouldn't even call it a niche, but in that topic, in that arena. So I had a chat with him, just talking about, you know, how to grow your audience, blah blah blah, how he, you know, where did his journey start, what's his vision, and it was just like a half an hour conversation. But from that conversation, all this rich detail was caught into the transcript. So taking that transcript, sort of plugging it into AI. Well, in this case, I was just using ChatGPT, and then I would look for key themes that were spoken about. And I also had my own like lesson outline for that particular unit. And so I had my outline written. I had the transcript from the conversation. And then I plugged those both into ChatGPT and then ask, or sort of elicit an answer from it. So this one was about like building a social community and an online network. More like a social community is probably a better way to look at it. Then I would draw what this guest had said that would be paired with what this class was about, and then there'll be a third one which would plug into the overall arc of the course, the total course that I'm offering. So with all these three pieces, ChatGPT in this case would draw out its knowledge base, making its own inferences, and then putting together content. And so then the content would come out. It would be structured to how I had laid out. It would be utilizing real references from an interview, and the interview was there at the top, as a video to download. So I'd be referencing from that, giving more context to the theories that were coming below it. And my job was then to just take those elements, reshape them where I needed to, just to add my own like editorial flavor and vision and experience, and then put it together into the website, into the lesson lesson page of the website. And like this all happens in half an hour of the conversation, but in terms of getting that content, like less than a minute. Once you put in the structure and the framework, and you've pre-thought about how you want this to be shaped, then you just put those pieces in and essentially just press go, and it will generate it for you. And it works really well. So been doing it with client stuff, websites. I think it's not a perfect science or art. And the reason why I say that is because not all the content's getting read. So in one class I've got, I do this process and it's really good. I read through it, but there is still no, like, I must read this. It doesn't have that just yet. And I'm not sure what's missing. I think when something's written by a person, though it takes longer and requires a lot more mental energy, there is a gravity to it in the words. And the gravity is, if I'm writing something, I've got to sort of go in this zone and be very interested and intrigued and drawn into the process for me to do a good job at it. And I think me trying to get drawn into it as a content writer, on the flip side of that, the audience can also get drawn into that. And I don't necessarily think AI at this stage has that ability to, sort of grab hold of you and pull you in much away. And I think a lot of it, that probably stems from, I think perhaps ego could be a cause, because if you're trying to stand out amongst other course writers, if you're trying to stand out amongst other designers or creatives, you might be flavoring the words to get attention, to sort of grab people and say, look at me. I don't think AI in its default form has those inhibitions, though, that need to be wanted. But it's an incredible system. It is, it's the smartest thing humanity's ever created. And I actually think it can be achieved with the tools. As I talk this out, I think it can be achieved with the tools that we have. It would need another piece added into those streams of information I just spoke about. We need to add another, I guess, a document or some sort of framework, some sort of guide rail to get that, persuasiveness, coerciveness, that attraction in there. So hey, that's something to think about. But anyway, we're getting lost in the weeds. We've got to get back to this. So here we go, got the content. So the brand, this is what it's got to represent. There's two things. This was one of the references he had of what he liked. In terms of like the, I guess, a company that he aspires to be or has an affinity to be like. And so this is the logo thing. And I don't love it, but I think it can work in much the way a personal brand can be this sort of thing. And perhaps he wants to be more of a personal brand. So this is another example that he gave in terms of just color. In just terms of color choice, was that blue, this sort of navy, and then like this style of font. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, it is what it is. It's a real estate agent. So going through the conversation and drawing out the insights, here are the things the brand needs to focus on. These are his words: neatness and quality. So that needs to represent precise, well-presented landscaping work. So we need to show precision. And how do you elicit precision in this? In a logo, I think that comes down to like very strong geometric forms, very tightly controlled, evenly spaced, and things sort of adhering to some sort of grid-like structure. So the integrity and friendliness. So integrity, I think, can come through in the neatness and the quality. Integrity can come through in the style of typeface. In this case, let's look back at what I've got. Oops. Delete that. So if I come back to here, so let's go through our list again. Integrity and friendliness. So I think what we've got is the neatness and the quality comes through these strong, bold lines. Then there was the integrity and friendliness. So I think the sans serif font gives it the integrity. The friendliness. Now the friendliness just in the typeface we're talking about. We'll go into the rest of it in a sec. I think the J, just having this little, I don't know what you call them, hat, top thing, whatever this is. I think, and the shape of this, I think that gives it the friendliness. I think the boldness and the shape of the letters are quite friendly shapes. Like, they're strong, but they're not over the top, they're not shouting. So I think that has some of the friendliness, but not understated the sophistication. So it is a little bit playful, but only playful to an extent. Because the way that I want to look at this is, because this is for a guy called Aaron Jones, who has a company, who has people working with him, but he is the face and he represents this. What it needs to be is a personification of the founder or the personification of the owner. So if he comes out a big truck or a big van, a big ute with a logo emblazoned on, when he's talking, that communication, that delivery, that needs to feel like this logo needs to feel a part of that. Because if you come out and it's like all this quirky logo and bright colors, and then we talk to him as he's very flat and dry and quite serious, then there's a mismatch. And that's where a lot of designers make the mistake of designing for them and not designing, or not thinking about design as communication, because essentially it's just a communication tool. So it's really, to sum up, like, you should have felt like you've already met this person, you've already met this team before you even meet them. That's at least that's the way I see it. So, okay, what was I up to? Go back to this creativity and simple, natural style. So let's bunch those together. Unique designs that harmonize with the environment. So I think that's an interesting point. And a clean blue and white logo with a modern feel. So simple. So the brand needs to embody professionalism, authenticity, and a commitment to thoughtful, lasting design. So it needs to be professional, it needs to feel authentic, but it needs to be thoughtful and lasting design. So that's not, sort of falling into trends. In some ways, a lasting design is probably a more disciplined approach, not in the sense of like a less creativity. If anything, it's actually more creative, but it doesn't rely on heavy orientation, doesn't rely on fancy techniques or an over reliance on the current tools. It goes back to the very beginnings, like that communication. And a lot of these long-lasting designs are really simple, like technically to execute. There is a lot, well, they're probably not actually, because getting that spacing right, getting the shapes right, getting the contrast and the balance of everything right, that's pretty hard. Hard because you got to have a feel for it. In much of a way, a person who's been playing guitar for 20 years versus someone who's only been playing for 2, there's a feel that comes just over time. So, yeah. So creativity, let's focus on that. Unique designs that harmonize with the environment. So this is a justification of why I've gone this, is we've got this, sort of strong shape that comes from this, and then we're mixing in a leaf there. And to me, this represents taking these geometric forms of architecture, or taking the forms of the house, the property, the man-made environment around it, and then blending it back into the leaf. So that leaf is blending this, strong architectural form, strong, some buildings, and then sort of harmonizing with nature. And the shape itself is a J to stand for Jones. And so when you put it together, you've got Aaron Jones Gardens. And now I'm just playing with 2 variations on this. There's the one where the shadow's a little bit more, which I kind of like. I think it's more dynamic. My concern is that it doesn't necessarily read as a J, more so like a demented J. I think this one is more literal as a J, but I don't think it flows in the same way. So we're going to put it to the test, and the best way to test this is to actually just put it in situ. And in this case, we're going to be doing we'll do it from here. Get rid of that. Okay, I wish I'd get rid of that. Anyway, cancel. Okay, well, I can't get rid of that because I'm too... I can't be bothered waiting for it to... So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste. Let's just close this down. Some assets. Take that color. Technically, I could just make this in Illustrator then do it in here, but I am not going to do it like that. I am going to just make it in there because I'm only really just want to feel for it. So that looks pretty cool. I don't mind that. I favour really simple logos. I find them incredibly hard for me to create, not technically, but just to get the idea there. Because you've got nothing, there's no technique, or there's no like fancy ornamentation, there's nothing when you've only got like 9 points. You have to be so efficient with those points because there's nothing to hide behind. So I think that looks really cool. Now I wanted to play around with some text here that I had. Close that. Try this, so I might just put this to a side. She might move both these logos. So I'll call those logo 1. Okay, now I'm just going to copy and paste in text. Okay, it is pretty bold, big and bold, but I don't mind. We come back to here. I think that looks really cool. Yep. See, I think that font does encapsulate a lot of what I'm going for. I'll try another one of these. I don't like how they're on sort of different lines, but I really do want it to be even. But hey. And I thought this not kind of needed like a finishing tagline or something. I've got here Aaron Jones knows how, but I don't know whether to make this a question. But we need a web domain. I guess I'll call this a call to action. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's pretty good. We just play around with that logo. This is the other logo variation. Yeah, I think they're both cool, but if I had to choose, I think I'd probably choose the other one. Might just go grab QR code generator. I think Canva does a good one. Well, that's the one I've been using lately. Generate a QR code. See, now this music's going. Anyway. No. See if this website works. There's absolutely an easier way to do than this, but the time to think about it, set it up, meh, be done just doing it the hard way. Okay, the Aaron Jones QR code. Just give it a white. I'm just going to copy and paste that back into Photoshop. All right. Looks pretty good. This music sucks. I need some energy. Okay. Let's copy and paste this stuff back in. That song sucks. It's alright. Maybe you don't need that. Yeah, that looks better. Yeah, no, I'm pretty happy with that. That, Aaron Jones. One more mock-up, which is the backside. Okay. Delete. Not loving it. Okay. This song's boring. Not much talking happening when I'm in the zone. Looks like a bit much. Yeah, it's interesting. It's different. So let's just close that. Close that. Yeah, too much. Okay, so here's what we got. Here's a t-shirt back, t-shirt front. Again, just concepts to see if this logo's working. Listen, I think it's looking at the t-shirt more than just have a logo on it. It's like, well, let's just say something. Why not? Like, who said you can't have a tagline on the back of a t-shirt? But yeah, I think it's alright. I do like this. And I do like the actually like the tagline. Aaron Jones knows how. And I think where the insight for that came along with the Aaron Jones knows how tag is that's what he does. Like, he steps clients through. One of the things he said was when he goes to like do the initial consultation with the clients, he'll grab a spray can and he'll just mark out the areas so they can sort of walk through it together and get a real sense of it. And that's where he's sharing his know-how. So maybe there's a pre-tag line for that. But anyway, I think that's pretty cool. Again, what we're doing here, this is not the fanciest or the award-winning design. That's probably the worst way to be a designer, is to look for to win awards, which is not what we're doing here. We're trying to communicate. So if he was working on a property and drove past that, like, that's a statement. And again, like, going back to our design discipline, what we've got to do is just convey these things: neatness and quality, integrity and friendliness, creativity, and simple natural style. Unique designs that harmonize with the environment. And I think we're achieving that. So I think it's pretty cool. All right, that's enough for now. I think I've got to head off and do some family stuff, but hopefully I should be back on later today, this evening, in the night shift to figure this out and also get some more content done for tomorrow's class. Turn that music off. So just before I head off, I do want to just go over this week's class, because I really do like this video. So this was the class we're going to do on sound design. I don't think I have Premiere open anymore, and this is the final export. Give it some volume. Listen to that. So again, it's only really demonstrating technique. That's the only way this was designed, but you can tell there's sort of a story and emotion and some real, something really cool happening underneath. It's different. I want it to go different. Here we go again. I might even use that as maybe I might just use this as an intro for my little show. Why not? You can do anything you want. Anyway, this is my show, this is my studio, so I can do whatever I want. because no one's watching. I guess there's that line, dance like no one's watching. Run a broadcast studio like no one's watching, because to begin with, no one is watching. But anyway, that's it for now. Goodbye.